The Northman is a Viking revenge picture from director Robert Eggers. This is the third film from Eggers, his previous two being 2015's The Witch and 2019's The Lighthouse. Similar to those pictures, Eggers paints another surreal period piece of great violence and introspection. The film stars Alexander Skarsgård as Amleth, a Viking prince. His father, King Warraven, played by Ethan Hawke, intended for him to be his heir to their tribe. Those dreams are dashed by the bitterness of Amleth's uncle, Fjolnir, played by CLAES. Having grown jealous of Warraven, Amleth stages a mutiny on the tribe. It ends with Fjolnir taking control of both the tribe and Warraven's wife, Queen Gudrun, played by Nicole Kidman. With his home ravaged, Amleth flees into the wilderness. He vows to grow up and return for bloody revenge. Amleth lives in a life of constant violence. Even before the mutiny, he was taught about the importance of being vicious. His last memories of his father involve a messy ceremony of manhood. His father teaches him how to act like a literal dog, and stresses this is what is required to rule. The ceremony seems absurd, but it also stresses lineage. Amleth is shown a fantastical vision of his bloodline. He is shown how he is another crucial part in his family's tree. This lays the groundwork for what matters to Amleth most in adulthood. He needs to continue his family, and bloody violence is the only path to that peace. Amleth's adulthood is one of quiet despair amid loud cruelty. He joins up with another Viking tribe that lays waste to villages. He witnesses the inhumanity of his work during this time. The sight of watching women and children burned in a village house fills him with regret. This is the same violence that destroyed his own life, and now it is destroying many more. It is during this time that he learns where Fjolnir is located. He decides to infiltrate and become a slave sold into Fjolnir's ownership. His undercover scheme works well. He gains that trust of Fjolnir enough not to be considered a dangerous conspirator. It's the perfect cover for him to quietly slaughter his men under cover of night. His secret rampage creates a paranoia within the village. It's the perfect storm for him to strike back. Complicating Amleth's quest is a sense of dread for the dead. Amleth is shown visions and told prophecies about his upcoming showdown with Fjolnir. He is told that he'll require a legendary sword and their battle will be near an active volcano. Some of these visions seem true, while others feel mentally based. A perfect example of this is when he seeks out a magical sword. In his mind, Amleth wrestles the sword away from a corpse. The battle ends, however, with him merely removing the sword from a motionless husk of a man. The most prominent vision that Amleth experiences is of the afterlife. He's under no illusion that the showdown will result in his death. This means his held belief of Valhalla is not far off. When Vikings die, they believe this heaven is granted to them in battle. As part of Norse mythology, the dead are led into the halls of Valhalla by Valkyries to be with Odin. The film displays the vision of a Valkyrie leading his soul into the Shining Kingdom with a Pegasus. Amleth experiences this vision twice with different conclusions. The Northman features some returning actors from previous Eggers movies. Anya Taylor-Joy, who appears in Eggers' The Witch, plays the love interest of Olga. Her performance once more leans into the supernatural as she reveals her sorcery. Her rebelliousness makes her the perfect ally for Amleth in his secret war. Willem Dafoe, previously from Eggers' The Lighthouse, once more takes on a wild role. He plays Hymir the Fool, a jester of the original kingdom. Though Dafoe's role is minor, he absolutely chews the scenery. Ralph Ineson also returns from The Witch for a minor role as Captain Vladimir. Kate Dickie, yet another cast member of The Witch, has a prominent role as Haldora the Pict. Another interesting aspect of The Northman are its few observations on masculinity. Amleth is taught that being a man requires you to be an unruly beast. He learns that only the most brutal and uncompromising will rule. However, he starts to learn that working smarter rather than harder will bring about his revenge. That being said, revenge is not so simple. The mantra of revenge is one that Amleth commits to his entire life. However, the further he proceeds in his quest, the more complicated it becomes. He believes that if he can kill Fjolnir, that his conquered mother will welcome him back, and the tribe will be saved. His infiltration, however, reveals something he did not consider about his own masculinity. It's not enough to simply kill for your own revenge. The adventure leads him to seeking something to defend. His legacy isn't worth fighting for otherwise. It plays into how his near-death experience is averted by Olga. She represents someone to fight for. This is not just her promise of being able to continue his family. She is seen as a fierce woman, able to hold her own against the likes of Fjolnir. When Fjolnir takes a sexual interest in her, she smears period blood on him. She combats his vicious sense of masculinity with her own aspects of womanhood. It's a trait that makes her an admirable woman for someone like Almeth. Yet there's also a sense of despair within Almeth. He is given the option at one point to flee for a better life. He denies this for the destined showdown between himself and Fjolnir. He reasons this is his destiny for both protecting his line and finding his way to Valhalla. But it is not treated gloriously. Almeth's bloody quest for revenge is treated as dirty and depressing. By the end of the film, Almeth is a beaten, bloody, and filthy Viking. He is bitterly consumed by his own sense of pride. He has accepted this end to his life, as it is something that has been taught to him. Though noble in his intent, his ultimate fate is a journey of draining his soul. The last scene features him worn and empty. He leaves hoping some good will come of this world he leaves behind. And, perhaps, there is something more waiting for him on the other side. Compared to the other films of Eggers, The Northman might be his weakest one. Keep in mind, however, that he has only made 3 films to date. So even though this may be his worst one, it's still a profoundly thrilling epic. It doesn't skimp on the sex and violence, showcases both the passion and inhumanity of it all. It doesn't shy away from tragedy that rips your heart out. It's also not afraid to burst with bloodshed that'll rip your lunch out. Unlike most films of this genre, The Northman is surprisingly contemplative on the nature of Vikings. While Eggers has remarkable staging, he doesn't rely on the pageantry. He taps into something more unique and perhaps even postmodern about such warriors. For such a richly deep dose of historical horror, this is yet another strong film from the incredibly talented Robert Eggers.